You learn that how to how to do this the hard way, and your kids, hopefully your kids grow up understanding that there's a better way, but you got to work to earn it.
Comment from Skip. Why are California taxpayers paying $45 million on alien legal services? Isn't this in violation of the Sixth Amendment?
$45 million for alien legal services. Someone would have to send me what that's about, because I could say that that may apply to Martians more than anybody else. I have no idea what that's about. But once again, if you don't have documents to be in this country, let's just get this straight. Those of you who are reading Breitbart or whatever else, you don't get funding from the government, benefits of any sort from the government, if you're undocumented. About the only thing you're entitled to is if you are pregnant and about to deliver and you need medical help to deliver. That's the only time an undocumented individual I'm aware of gets any kind of services. And that we do because you're about to deliver a baby that will be born a U.S. citizen.
L.A. Times, I'm reading from something that appeared there back in June of 2017. Quote, California state lawmakers approved $45 million in a state budget plan to expand legal services for immigrants, a response to the Trump administration's call to increase deportations.
Oh, okay. Now I see where we're going on that. Okay, that makes sense. Because, again, the legislature, the representatives of the people, chose to enact certain programs. We do that, for example, when it comes to education. We try to give dreamers, for example, an opportunity to be able to afford college. And so you're right. When the legislature moves in a particular respect, yes, that's because the representatives of the people are taking action on behalf of the people. A great point, and actually there I stand corrected, because you're right. If the legislature acts where it's allowed. But, for example, federal services and benefits, you'd have to get a Congress to make any kind of change to that.
But the question really had to do with spending money on immigrants, that we're spending money on immigrants, and that's money that we can't spend on, it's this whole America First idea in many respects, or those who are citizens.
Well, as far as I know, they are in America, building America, and why we would not want to help why my parents should not have been able to ask our country to help their son get to Stanford University and graduate. I'm not sure. I could not have afforded Stanford had the American people, the American taxpayers, not helped me as the son of immigrants. And today I've got 3 daughters in college. All 3 of them are, my wife and I are cutting the checks to pay their tuition. Actually, my wife, she's a doctor. She can afford it more than I can. And I think we've demonstrated that there's a great investment when you help people build and do better for themselves and their kids. And so the will of the people here is what dictates. And if the legislature, in its wisdom, and I think it was wisdom, chooses to help immigrant families who are working very hard, I'm all for that. But I guarantee you, we need to show that there's value in it for everyone else. And I think most of those immigrant families can prove to you, as my parents can prove to folks, there was value in investing in Manuel and Maria Teresa Becerra.
The argument you often hear gets political, as I'm sure you're well aware, and the argument goes something like this. Many of these immigrants become Democrats or wind up voting for a Democratic Party, so that enhances the Democratic Party, works against the Republican Party. And we also hear a good deal of complaint, really, and concern and apprehension about the fact that the Latino vote is simply not coming through in the way that many people in the Latino community, especially leadership in the Latino community, would want that vote to come through.
Yeah. Politics is actually a lot easier than you think. There is a logic to it, even though it seems sometimes so illogical, especially these days. If you're not nice to someone, you shouldn't expect them to be prepared to be part of your party and vote for you. That's one thing. The second thing is, I think what we're finding is that the Latino community, like so many communities, has often never been connected to the levers of power and the decision-making that goes on. And when you've been distanced from it, you don't recognize it, you don't own it, you don't feel like you're part of it, and so therefore you don't participate in it. And I'm hoping that begins to change as, in places like California, folks of Latino heritage begin to see how important it is to participate. At the end of the day, it's all about participation. And I do think that many of these families will recognize that when sometimes they've come from countries where political participation was not only frowned upon, but it could get you killed. I think now, hopefully, they'll recognize not only is it you don't get killed, but you're doing yourself and your kids a disservice if you don't participate.
And we'll have more callers participate in the program. Let me get Vishal. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Becerra. My question is Prop 47 and realignment. How do you see those two laws impacting crime in our communities?
And you can probably put Prop 57 in there as well. Those initiatives and that legislation have changed the way we're looking at the criminal justice system and incarceration. And for those who may not remember the initiatives or the law that well, it started to change the responsibility for upkeep and housing those who've been convicted of crimes. It talked about what crimes would put you into jail or into the state penitentiary. And what it's done is it's removed a lot of the low-level offenders, the nonviolent offenders, from prisons. And as a result, you see a lot more individuals who are still out in our community and on the streets. I'll tell you what I said and I learned back in the 1980s when, as I mentioned before, I started working as an attorney representing the mentally ill. That was right around the time of what was being called the deinstitutionalization of the mentally ill. Before that, we would always put them in these mental institutions and lock them up. And we were beginning to find that so long as they were able to stay on a regimen of medicine and get some therapy, that they could function and work out in the community. And so we started to deinstitutionalize those who were mentally ill. Good idea, bad follow-through, because we took them out of the institutions. We didn't provide them the services so that they could get the therapies and the medicines, and they ended up oftentimes being homeless or committing crime. Same thing applies here. We can deinstitutionalize those who've been convicted of a low-level offense, but if we don't provide them with the habilitation services, the reintegration services, don't be surprised if you see them once again get wrapped up in the criminal justice system in the wrong way. And so it's up to us to follow through on the idea that low-level offenders should not be just locked away and become hardened criminals. It's up to us to make sure we help them integrate once again into the community.
Very little time left, but Doris, let's try to get you on. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much, Mr. Krasny and Mr. Becerra. I just wanted to say, in my political life, so to speak, there's been so many occasions where we've had to say to ourselves, not in our name or not in my name. And you, Mr. Becerra, are so refreshing. I've heard you speak a few times on various, news programs, etc. And we should be really, number one, proud that you are our Attorney General, but more importantly, that you are speaking in our name. So I want to thank you for that.
It's a good way to end.
Doris, a great way to start MLK Day.
Yeah, and your parents would be very proud. So thank you for being with us this hour. Xavier Becerra, again, is Attorney General for the state of California, and we are here with you Monday through Friday, 9 to 11, with an hour repeated 10 to 11 in the evening. Remind you can always let us know what you think about what you hear on Forum or would like to hear on Forum by emailing us, forum@kqed.org. And for all of us here at KQED Public Radio and the Forum program, I'm Michael Krasny.